Hello again, this is Naomi Hattaway from the I Am a Triangle community. We've been doing a series of interviews with our amazing advisory board. The advisory board was sought out to help navigate and direct the future of the I Am a Triangle community, and today's interview is with the amazing Rachel Yates. Rachel and I have known each other online for ages, and we have been in the same space twice now, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, because we started out both as bloggers.
Yes.
Way back. When I think we were both trying to figure out how we felt about the whole expat thing. We were both relatively new to it.
Yeah, it was. That's so crazy. It seems like forever ago. So tell us a little bit, Rachel, about you, your background, and then we'll go into the things that you're doing in the world today.
So anyway, thank you for having me. First of all, it's lovely to be here. Thank you. And I am so honored to be on the advisory board. You've got some phenomenal people, and I feel a little bit, it's like, oh, very lucky to be part of it.
Fantastic.
Because I came into the, you hear a lot of talk, and I'm sure you've been talking with some of your other advisors and about third culture kids and people who, have navigated crossing cultures for a long, long time. And I'm the opposite. I come from a small place in rural Wales, where nothing ever changes, which I love. Very, very stable community, very tight-knit community, great grandparents, parents. I go home and everyone is still the same, and it's as if I never left. And then when I was 30, I'd got two children. I'd got a sort of infant and a 4-year-old. And my husband was first off offered the move just to London. So, in theory, a different country, and a commute at the weekend. And I think that was where we first got our taste of living apart and some of the challenges of, raising families in different places. And then my husband was offered the opportunity to go to Kenya for a year. And I'm sure there will be people out there watching this who go, oh, yeah, been there, done that. It was a 1-year temporary assignment, and we thought it would be a wonderful adventure because it was just a year, put my career on hold, put my kids' school places on hold. I had everything under control, and off we trotted. And actually he went first, so I also had the fun of packing up a house and bringing kids, dogs and stuff on my own, which was, again, I'm sure there were people rolling their eyes at that point. And that assignment expanded to, I think, 2.5, 3 years. And then we were moved to Los Angeles, and then we were moved to San Francisco. And so we never made it home. And that really has informed my work, because I'm a planner and I'm probably a bit of a control freak. I like things. I was a former nurse, and so I understand about mortality. I understand the need for really careful planning and good execution. And so actually all of that went right out the window. And so I that's what I bring to the table, is this, incompetence, I think, is probably what we're looking for. But I thought I had it all under control. And so there are so many of us out there who did not anticipating being so far from home for so long. And haven't ever stopped to consider the consequences. And, here we are 15, 16 years later, and things are very different. And we didn't ever put our safety nets in place. So that's where I come to it.
And that kind of comes into play then with the Expat Lifeline, and all of the things that you do in that space, because what you've done is created a really amazing set of products, courses, webinars, really great information that helps people kind of start at square one, where you kind of had to flub your way through it.
And I love that you just said start at square one, because that, I think, is one of the huge disadvantages when you come into it as an adult, that you don't have your networks. You have zero networks, and you go into it believing the company, they have a relocation process and a policy, and so, it'll all be taken care of. And what you don't realize is, their job is to get you there legally, quickly, and safely. But once you are there and, you have a house, it just really is your basic human needs are met. And you don't realize how many more layers. I think, Maslow's hierarchy, we should be paying more attention to, because they do the bottom line. And So I didn't have a network. I didn't know where to start. I didn't have anyone to ask. We were the only expats in those postings or the postings that we went into. So there wasn't a network of people that we could ask. And I think that's probably why you and I connected, because I started blogging because I wanted to put that information out there. And the longer we are in this space, we keep discovering these fantastic people. And so often I think the vast majority of our job and the stuff we do is to actually connect people, to try and put the things that we wanted in place, but also connect people with these others who can just really make it easier for them and fix things.
Well, and that's part of what I see I'm a Triangle answering, is that need for there to be a place where people can connect, because I don't have the time or the resources or the smarts to create everything that needs to be created, but there's other people doing it. And to be able to kind of go through and figure out who's really doing it for the right reasons and then promote them is a super great thing. So before we go much further, before we got on, we had this conversation about my little live a great story. Do you want to share? Do you want to share the one you're matching?
Oh, mine is slightly different.
You know that little voice inside your head that keeps you from saying things you shouldn't? Yeah, Rachel doesn't have that.
I don't. It's really bad. We were laughing because I find everything is fixed if you can laugh. You're halfway there. But I think coming from a background where it was a very, very small homogenous community, and we do tend to be pretty blunt. I really have made an impact in certain places.
But that's part of what I think has endeared you to me, or whatever, is that you just say it like it is, and there's not a lot of pulling punches or beating around the bush, which I appreciate. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to be on the advisory board is because I knew that you would always say it straight and say it with love, but definitely not hold back.
And don't you think I have this very strong belief that if we can name it, we can fix it. We can figure it out. And I always think when someone is honest enough to say you're nuts, that's not going to happen. Or, we've all been there, that, for instance, that first 3 months, or you come across people who are just moving and they think it's all going to be perfect. And I just love that naivety, but I also love it, when people will just say, I had some of the best advice. I didn't listen to it at the time because I was sure I knew better. But that, it's not going to happen. That's not going to work, but you can figure it out.
No, I totally agree. So tell those that are watching a little bit about Expat Lifeline and what it involves, what products you have, and then a little bit about your summit and that.
Okay, so the Expat Lifeline was, again, just generated by my own observations, the people around me, my own experiences. And so it is focused towards women because we tend to be the supporting partner. And I realize that's a generalization. And I often get questions about, what about the men? A ton of it applies to whichever, same-sex partnerships, working, stay-at-home dads, the guy as supporting partner. But typically the vast majority of supporting partners are women. And rights and laws and legal standards are not universal for women. And that was something I really came to notice more and more. And it's being talked about more, but I've been talking about it for probably 5 years now, saying, women are more vulnerable overseas. So to start out with, it is geared towards women, and a lot of the products talk to women, but the same applies if you're a guy. But just obviously because I'm a woman, I see it more clearly. And it comes at 2 angles. I want women to be more safe, secure, and effective overseas. I want us to be able to make great informed decisions. A dear friend of mine has a phrase: when we're weak, we make weak decisions. And a lot of the time, we don't know we're weak. So that's the one thing I do. I do a lot of work. There is a free quiz on the website called How Protected Are You?, which is a really great starting point. And then it leads down to the Global Girls Guide. There is a number of, we do workshops with the member area. So there's a lot of stuff that is geared about helping women become more empowered. There's the family file, which is trying to get people to put all that information down on paper. And for a lot of people, that's step one, because when you start answering the questions or putting it down, you suddenly go, I have no idea.
No idea.
Yeah, like things like life insurance policies. So many times I hear the phrase, my husband takes care of all that, or, you know, he has an insurance policy through work, but people have no way of knowing how much it is or how well protected they are or how to get hold of it if something happens.
That the supporting partner, whoever's staying at home, the cost that it would take to replace the work that you do should be represented in a life insurance policy.
And so many women don't have life insurance, or we don't have wills that are valid in the host country. And so actually if something happened, it would have to go through probate. Now, there is enough going on if something, God forbid, if something terrible happens, there is enough going on without trying to navigate the legal process in a foreign country. And again, that's the reasons I hear for not doing a lot of stuff. Like, we don't have a will because we don't know who would be guardians of our children. Why is that going to change? Like, if you can't figure it out, how do you expect it to be easier?
Yeah. Well, and that was a big thing that we had as a personal issue when we went to India. We didn't realize until we got there that the person named as our guardian for the children had to have something specific to even take the children out of India if something would have happened.
And it's often something as simple as a letter that has been notarized, so it's not tricky. But a lot of this stuff is not tricky. Yeah. I want people to talk about these issues, relationship breakdown, change in roles, all of that before they go on assignments, or at least, while they're on assignments, instead of just never discussing them. Anyway, so that's the one thing.
I want to go back just really quick to the piece about the three things that you want to see. You want to see women overseas safe, secure, and what was the other one?
And stress-free, I guess, but just more effective. I want to make things easier for people because it is, I found it so difficult and so much, you're the same, I'm sure, we learn by our mistakes. And so I would really like us to have information so that we can make better steps. And then that's where we've done a couple of things that aren't directly related to, the security or the legal side of things. And just to be clear, I'm not a lawyer. I talk to people who are, and I'm trying to get people, because every situation is different. I want people to talk to the people who know. But I also have things like we've done the Moving with Kids Summit, where we got together the most incredible group of thought leaders and experts in, raising children overseas, everything from Ruth Van Rieken, who basically really brought along with David Pollock, brought the idea of third culture kids right into the mainstream conversation and the challenges that they face, all the way through to multilingualism, to raising children with special needs overseas and how that can be managed, and it can be managed, all of those things, finding schools. That was to try and help, because typically the ball gets dropped when we're talking about the tricky stuff. Often that gets put to one side because we're navigating the immediate, the day-to-day. So there was the Moving with Kids Summit. And as you know, we're currently working on a Mastering the Move Summit, which actually helps people right at the start, put the stuff in place right at the start, and just make it easier. I mean, God knows we can do it so much better now, but it would be really nice if we'd known that at the start.
Right. Well, and like you said, though, it's about the learning through the mistakes. And so it's you've been willing to identify what things you wish you would have known, and you've put them all together into a set of resources and products that does make it easier.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we've discussed is that you have to navigate around a certain number of people often that aren't experts at what they do, but have been put in a position where they're supposed to support you, and they don't have the skill set, or they don't have the mindset. Sometimes you don't if they don't get the challenges you face as an expat, you're not getting the right support. And I think that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, is there are some phenomenal people out there. And it's so much easier if you can just say, excuse me, is this right?
Is this normal? What should I be doing next? And one of the things that we do talk a lot about, you're right, is in the relocation space, is oftentimes you get assigned this person who's called a relocation professional or a global mobility professional. And what you find is that they often haven't moved themselves. They have no idea the ins and outs. They don't know how to be empathetic. So yeah, one of the things we talk about quite often is that you have the right to choose your own relocation professional or realtor. It's all those things that unless you know them, it's not information that's in your grasp.
Yes. And being really clear about who that person is working for. And that often you get people who are really phenomenal, who understand the human piece of it. But at the end of the day, typically people are focusing on getting you into a house or getting you, your children into a school without actually focusing on whether that's the right house, the right school, or, the job, they have a certain number of hours
or they're focused on the wage earner who has already been in his or her new office for several months at the time. And they continue to call the wage earner about decisions that the support partner needs to be making.
This is the point you and I start sniggering because we've both been there.
So we won't go down that rabbit hole.
We will, but on another day.
Okay, so going into kind of the next set of questions, and this might not be a very easy question to answer, but what is your idea, or what do you like around the concept of community, and what does community mean to you?
Actually, I love that question because for me, that's the sign of a successful expat, when you have that sense of community. Ruth Van Reken in the Moving with Kids Summit talks about the sense of belonging. And there was a post on Facebook, funnily enough, that I was just reading about how to know when you've crushed the neighborhood thing, when you've found your perfect neighbors. And it was, I think we used to think of our family as fulfilling those roles, but now more and more, we think of our neighbors, our friends. Mm-hmm. So to me, community is the people around you that feed and nurture all the different parts of you and help you and keep you upright. But it is fascinating how they're not, to me, they're no longer geographically defined. I mean, I think quite often we think of being expats as a geographical definition, tended to think of community as the people in our immediate neighborhood. And now I laugh because my daughter, we always have those sponsored things that you bring home from school. My daughter Rose, and she has the sponsor form, and it's an online fundraiser. And so they go out globally to people we consider family all over the place. And that to me is something that really, it warms my heart that I think we understand the need to support each other's children, to support each other's needs and aspirations. But we do that in such a broad way now. We do it on Skype, we do it on Facebook chat, we do it sometimes in person. Yeah. But that for me is community. It's the people who nurture you and who keep you, on the path that you're going on.
No, I like that. And I think to add to it, it almost sounds as though, talking about belonging, that community that you just mentioned and referenced seems like a community of people that let you be yourself. And don't ask you to adhere to what their definition of you should be, which is more fitting in. And belonging is a more natural way, I think, of being around people. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
I love belonging. I love the concept of it and what it feels like when you have it, as opposed to what it feels like when you don't.
And I think that's, to me, is what really differentiates the I Am a Triangle community, is that people make themselves really vulnerable in that group. And everyone rallies round. You don't see, and that is credit to you and your team. That I say your team, but I know that you spent hours. But moderating it so that people understand. Because I think it's difficult on a global in a global community, because there are so many different communication styles and so many different, language barriers. What's acceptable in one place is another. And so it's easy for feelings to get hurt and people to feel belittled. And I think one of the things I love is that the community has been so well moderated that it's huge now, but there is a definite code of conduct that is peer to peer, rather than, top down. And I love that you can go on and get, this huge boost. I love it. It's phenomenal.
That is a good part to kind of segue, that it is peer-to-peer. No, it doesn't feel good to have moderation or policing from the top down. And it does feel really good when someone can just kind of pull someone to the side and say, hey, are you okay? And that's what we found, is that often when things get a little bit out of hand, or when someone's got a snide comment, they usually have something pretty drastic happening in their life at the moment. And so it's provided really great opportunities for our community members to stand next to each other and support each other through the hard stuff. So it's been cool to watch that.
Mm. Yes.
So a fun question. If you could travel anywhere in the world that you have not yet been, where would that one place be?
Prague comes to the top of my head. I really want to spend time just wandering some of the European capitals and sitting and drinking coffee and just watching the world go by. I think we live such a fast-paced life. But it is funny because every time I think that, a new one pops up. But at the moment for me, and I think part of it is that you start to know so many people in different places. Going to the FIGT conference this year, I desperately want to go back to The Hague and just sit in cafes with people that I've met and didn't get to spend time with. And even when we were there, actually, Trish Carter, I wrote, actually she wrote the bulk of it, can we just say, the Finding Home Abroad journal. I'll happily take all the credit, but she is definitely the brains behind it. But she and I had a couple of extra days, and we were sitting in a cafe having ice cream, and Joe Parfit walked in. And that was one of my favourite moments. It was just so lovely.
Fun if we were all literally in the same place. That'd be
so nice.
So speaking of Finding Home Abroad, you are releasing, am I correct, another edition?
We're currently working on it. What we're looking at doing is trying to offer it in different formats. At the moment, it's a book, a printed book, and that doesn't work for everyone. And we also wanted to make it easier for people to gift. And so, because one of those things we're always thinking is that it's really nice, you're always looking for something to get for people who are leaving, and you don't know what to get because they don't want to carry it, and And so, and what we're thinking of doing is offering it, for instance, as an email, regular updates and postcards being sent so that people feel connected.
I like that.
But they can actually also use it, have those constant prompts. It doesn't get put away on a shelf somewhere. You get little prompts and updates, and it's just a little more portable, I guess.
No, portable, and probably a little more engaging too, if it's, like you said, if it's not being stuck on a shelf.
Yeah. And it was fascinating writing with Tricia because she is so good at what she does and so experienced. She's an organizational psychologist and a cross-cultural specialist. And it was fascinating because she makes it look so easy. And one of the things I thought we could do if we do it, for instance, as a drip email feed or different ways of doing it, is that you could have small videos to understand why she's asking you what she's asking. Because for me, it was just fascinating to watch. She's just really clever. And it was, to understand why journaling, for instance, why writing down is so important, and the psychology behind that. She's big on neuroscience.
Well, and I just posted actually in the new platform for I'm a Triangle, her latest article about 5 ways to be, to make sure that you have mental well-being. And just reading, she's just brilliant.
She is, and but it's always so underestimated because she's so humble and never puts herself never ever.
It's a practical delivery too. delivering what could be a hard to explain or hard to understand concept in ways that are just very layman's terms that everyone can understand.
Yes, she genuinely cares that people get the results they're looking for. Yeah. She's genuinely not interested in how they get there. She just really wants to make sure they get.
Absolutely. You know, another thing I just realized as we were talking that I really have appreciated and love about you is your unabashed ability to highlight and focus and give credit where credit is due when you've met someone amazing and know that they do something fantastic. And that's something I don't see often in people because there's this weird competitive collaboration thing. And that's something you and I talk a lot about. But I just want to make sure I mention that you definitely see the value that people bring, and you are always a champion of sharing it out to other people and talking up the people that are doing great things in the world. So I appreciate that.
That's because I know how badly I've done it. And so I'm always so excited to find somebody who knows how to do it properly. But you need to know about this person.
That is funny. So these are not very long. So the last question I have for you as we wrap up is, if you were given the biggest microphone that's ever been created and all of the world was listening, and you had to condense your wisdom and your wit and your advice into a bite-sized piece of a message, what would that be?
That's a really difficult one to sort of try and put in one soundbite, but I think it would, I can't put it into words perfectly, but it would be, I wish everyone would have this experience. I wish expat life on everybody, but I wish the good parts. I think that's something we can control. I think it fundamentally comes from what I'm trying to do is actually give people both the confidence, the skills, and the safety net to do this, because I think the whole world should get to experience what we do, but preferably without the bumps and the bruisings.
And having the support net to fall back on.
Oh.
Because like you said at the beginning, people often say, I'll try it, I'll do it myself. I've got this figured out. And knowing that they've got that safety net to bounce back on probably gives that extra sense of confidence.
We meet incredible people, don't you think? We are surrounded by a community of incredible people. And I want everyone not to get hurt. Do you know what I mean? I want people all to stay safe and to stay in it and to have a really great positive experience.
Yep, I love that. So where can people find you? Where's the easiest way, and what kind of social media do you like?
Oh, that's a good question. The easiest place to find us is on the expatlifeline.com, which is the website we have. There's also a member area. So if people want to access some of the things like the Moving with Kids Summit, there is a month-to-month membership area. And we also run workshops and stuff, live workshops, because what we're trying to do is get people in the same room working on stuff, well, virtual room, because I know that's one of the challenges. So there is a ton of ways. We do free webinars typically every month. At the moment, I'm on sabbatical until September, but it will all be starting up back in September. So yes, the Expat Lifeline. I have a Facebook and a Twitter feed, but that isn't the primary way. I end up sending people to I Am a Triangle more, because I think you just do it so well. So you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, but the easiest way to stay in touch and stay connected and up to date with all we're doing is to go to the expatlifeline.com and sign up for the newsletter.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
Yes, I always love our chats, and it was good to get you on camera, and I'm excited to share more about what you do with the I Am a Triangle community.
I'm really happy to be here, so thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.